Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Club 303 podcast. It finally made it out of the group chat. We did it. Everybody else just talks about it. We're doing it. And here it is. I'm Zach Reynolds, going to be hosting this a little bit for most of the time. Got a lot of great groups of guys here. Obviously, as you may know by now, we're all brought together by interning for the Palm Springs Power back in 2023. I was a broadcaster for them, as was my friend Austin Stokes there. The other two, Slater and Party Pat, were data analytics interns. They had a hell of a time. I'm sure we'll get into some good stories and horror stories throughout the run of this podcast about our time in Palm Springs. But for the most part, we're going to be talking about the higher levels of baseball that people actually care about, like NCAA and obviously the MLB. So first off, as we're nearing the MLB season, pitchers and catchers report here in a couple of weeks. We're going to be breaking down the divisions one by one as we get closer to the season, starting today with the NL West, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. I've done enough rambling. I'll let these guys show off their personalities or ball knowledge. Some of them have some great ball knowledge and personality. Other, like Stokes, the Yankees fan, just has good personality. A little dig at him. But I'm done talking. Guys, made it out of the group chat. How we feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Very excited for this. Obviously, love talking to these guys. They're three of some of my best friends. And just be able, MLB season right around the corner. College baseball literally starts on the 14th. Could not be more excited for baseball starting back up.
Point out for the JUCO bandits like myself, college baseball has already started at the JUCO ranks. Wabash Valley went 1-0 today. So,
fair enough. So yeah, we have JUCO baseball on the way. NCAA Division I starting on the 14th, and then got MLB spring training games on the 20th starting up. So I'm so excited just to have an outlet, talk ball with my friends.
Good start.
I'm excited to talk balls as well too. Needless to say, I'm stoked to get this going. Once in a while, you might see my kittens in the background in the video, or you might hear them screaming around. But that's what this podcast is all about. It's not going to be perfect, and that's just what we're all about. That's our personalities coming out, and I think that's what really drives this podcast is our unique takes, our unique personalities, and I couldn't be more excited to do it with three of my best buds that was not expecting to meet, but I'm very happy that I did during my time out in Palm Springs.
Yeah, I resonate with all of that. I'm super stoked to get this going. It's crazy. I low-key, after we left, I kind of thought that was it, but it's cool to kind of bring the boys back together, talk a little baseball, and have some fun while we're doing it.
Yeah, going to be electric. Going to have a lot of great content coming your way. As I said, starting off, we're going to be breaking down the divisions of baseball, and we're going to start with maybe the most stacked division in baseball over the last several years. Certainly in that conversation, it's going to be again this year. That's the National League West. We'll go team by team to break things down. Got to start with the reigning World Series champs. Sorry, Stokes. The Los Angeles Dodgers. Nobody even really wants to talk about them. We all hate them, I feel like, but they're good. Got to break it down. Slade already told me he's going to do his best to poke holes in that roster and in that team. So, Slade, what do you got?
Yeah, so, when you look at, the projected lineup and rotation and bullpen for the Dodgers, there really is just there's not much to poke holes in. So I did my best to where I think the place where the Dodgers are by far the weakest, I think, is the rotation, even though it is very deep. They got pretty much 8 stars. They got guys like Snell, they've got Moto, they have Glass now, Gonsolin coming back off injury. Obviously got Roki Sasaki for nothing because he's an international free agent. They got Dustin May coming back, even though he's probably more of a reliever. He can start. And then you have Kershaw, who's just going to keep signing 1-year deals and coming back. And then you got Ohtani, that should be back at some point this year. So I think the main way you could somehow poke a hole in this stacked Dodgers team is that you hope that their innings pitched leader last year was Gavin Stone, at 140 innings, who is also on the injured list now, to where it's kind of like, the main thing that, we look at is, a lot of these guys have not logged high inning totals at all. To where, like, if I was a betting man, there's not a single pitcher on this Dodgers rotation that I would bet pitches 170 plus inning, 175 plus innings this year. So that's the biggest, gap in their roster that I see. But the problem is they faced that same challenge last year. Worst case scenario, and they still won the World Series. So that's really all I got there.
Yeah, I try to go through and like find, questions about each of these rosters. And when I did the Dodgers, the questions that I found are good questions to have as a team. It's like, like you said, like they have like 8 guys that could probably be towards the top end of a rotation in most rotations in baseball. So the question is, which one of, who of them take the leap to be that guy? But like you just mentioned, they're all going to get their shot because it's baseball in 2025. Pitchers get injured. You got to have guys. They do. Another question I had was, how are they going to find playing time for guys like Miguel Rojas, Tommy Edman? Rojas and Edman both better defensive shortstops than Mookie Betts, but Mookie Betts is Mookie Betts, so he's going to play shortstop instead of them. Edman might get some time in center field. It'll be interesting how they just get all those guys playing time.
Well, I mean, is that not the ideal problem to have?
Yeah.
Like, I have too many high-quality players, and there's no one on the market worth trading them away for. I mean, it sucks, but that's like the dream setup for them. I mean, even at like, I guess you call Max Muncy kind of one of your weaker defenders, and that's Max Muncy. You know what I mean? Like that's still a nuts team, and the fact that they're so deep in every way, like in the postseason, I mean, the whole goal was get hits early, get hits often, and even when teams would do that against them, which was kind of the only way to beat them in the regular season, it still didn't work. So I mean, I just think there's no holes. Like I said, kind of recently that the World Series winner regardless comes from this division. In whatever form that may come, but this is pretty close to a better lineup than they had last year, and it was a cakewalk for them.
I totally agree that that's a great problem to have, and an ideal problem to have. Personally, coming from experience playing college baseball, we ran into this. I mean, not necessarily problem, quote unquote. But not only at the junior college level out in Cloud County, but also at Regis, I was both on part of pretty good teams and really good pitching staffs, and so didn't really get a ton of opportunity just because of that depth. But tell you what, I didn't care as long as we're winning. Boys were having fun. Clubhouse levels are high. That's all that matters at the end of the day. So I mean, that's probably what it's going to be like for the Dodgers, and that's what it's probably like for those pitchers that they're all-stars on any other team, but not getting a ton of innings. But who cares? They're winning.
Shout out to the Regis Rangers dropping 25 runs today as we record on Friday.
You're damn
also,
right.
Shout out to the other 3 on this podcast, all being in some form or way former collegiate pitchers, at least a little bit. I never got past grade school baseball, but not just because I'm bad. That was one of the reasons, but also health issues and things like that. I could probably still throw harder than Stokes, though. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean, you can't locate who seems like I can, but
Well, you've all seen me throw a water bottle with 2 seam movement. So.
Hey, not everybody can call ball, buddy. That takes a real special player.
Speaking of, kind of what Pat was talking about, and then also relating it to getting cut, another thing with you just talking about the Dodgers, they just DFA'd a guy who had a sub-2 ERA for them last year. That's how deep they are in the bullpen. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I think we all hope that they lose. Just, nobody. Fuck the Dodgers, But
Let's see. I would like last year, we almost kind of forget how close the Padres had them on the ropes. Like the Padres had them, and then they proceed to not score for 24 straight innings. Partly obviously because Dodgers pitching stepping up, guys like Yamamoto. But the Padres had him and just let them off and they let them off the hook, and Dodgers just ran with it, just ran through the Mets, ran through the Yankees, to a World Series title. And we're talking about we haven't talked about they signed Hai-Song Kim. Not to be confused with Ha-Seong Kim, who just signed with the Rays, but Hai-Song Kim from the KBO came over and he's a utility guy now. And they didn't even seem to need him. They still have Vargas there. And then I think this offseason really got out of the Dodgers is when they went out and got Tanner Scott, one of the best relievers in baseball. And then later the next morning, they just went and signed Kirby Yates to just form the Death Star of a bullpen, along with their Death Star, starting pitching and in the lineup. So.
And that really kind of patched the main hole for him last year. Like you saw when they went deep in the bullpen, like real true bullpen games, there wasn't real consistency across the board. And so I think patching that hole is gonna. I mean, they're probably gonna add 5-10 games on the win record from last year, and that's crazy. Just from games that the bullpen lost them, and I really don't think that a lot of those games are going to be the case.
Yeah,
no, exactly.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, like you're saying, adding that many more games on paper, this team is just so freaking good. I mean, realistically, this team could win as long as everything goes well, everybody stays healthy. This team could win 120 games.
I mean, it's one of the craziest rosters on paper, but we play the games for a reason. We'll see. Now, I think I want to drop the first hot take of the show in that I think Shohei Ohtani should probably just forget about pitching with their depth at pitcher already and how he proved that he can be a game changer as a hitter only last year. I don't know. I feel like you could just find innings for some of these younger guys that they want to get innings if you just say, hey, Shohei, just be Shohei at the plate, and that's good enough. But you probably didn't pay him $700 million just to hit. I don't know.
No, you're right. It's a thing of he just hasn't at the major league level got being hurt, hasn't logged as many innings as probably a lot of people when he first initially came to thought he would. But like you said, his bat is the most valuable thing. It's what the Dodgers want. They're going to be careful with him. I'll say because I had it right in front of me. Like when you almost get Ohtani out of the mindset of who he is overall as a player, you kind of forget as a pitcher, 2018 first year, 51 innings pitched. 2019 he was on the shelf, injured. 2020 he only pitched 1.2 innings. That was on COVID year though. 2021, 130, 2022, 166, that's kind of when he hit his stride, and then 2023 he had 132 before getting hurt again, and now he was on the shelf again last year. So there's obviously a lot of concerns about how Shohei really hasn't put together like a full season on the pitching side, to where that's kind of why the Dodgers want to be careful with their $700 million man.
I just don't really see from the outings he has had in the MLB, I just don't see how long the hype is going to last around Shohei, the two-way player, when he has more than proved himself as Shohei the hitter. I just don't think you need him to be a pitcher. Like if he wants to throw, find a Thursday game and let him go out there and be Shohei pitcher. But I don't see the need for you to put the pressure on him now after coming off the season where he was injured to be our number one and our fourth hitter. That's a lot for a guy A, coming off of an injury season, and B, a season where he obviously just found his stride at the plate. So he is the greatest baseball player in the world, so maybe I'm trying to equate this to the normal ball player. But I just think that's a lot on mindset. And maybe he can do it because he's Shohei, but that's a lot on his shoulders.
I'll tell you what, he doesn't have the rubber arm that Pat Kennedy has.
You're damn right.
I've never seen that guy get injured.
Yeah. couple of Miller Lights the night before, and some ibuprofen for the next morning, and you're set.
Heard, man.
That's all you need. We can transition to the Padres here, as Andrew mentioned a little bit earlier, how they could have had the Dodgers on the ropes a little bit, couldn't really finish it off, and I think the big question coming into the season for the Padres is that they didn't really get much, if any, better. So what's going to change for them to overtake the Dodgers this season if that's what they want to do? They lost Jurickson Profar. Now they kind of got to replace him. Left field's going to be interesting. They've got some defensive questions in general. What are you guys' thoughts on the Padres?
They can't do anything. They have $600 million tied up in four players. That's a ton of money to try and now go buy with. I mean, it's a major market. Like San Diego is a baseball city at the end of the day, like the Chargers being gone. But that's a bunch of money to now try and fill around the players that just aren't really what you want to be. Like, yeah, Machado is Machado. Like, you know, that's a bunch of money. I just don't see how they can fill around that. That's probably why they just kept the same lineup last year, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, if you're going to bet on the San Diego Padres, I mean, you're betting that everybody stays healthy and everything goes to plan. I mean, the biggest difference between their playoff contention winning the West versus the versus who we just talked about with the LA Dodgers. The biggest difference is that depth that we talked about. I mean, at best, the Padres are fighting for a wild card spot, but they're a few injuries away from falling to the middle of the pack of the NL West.
Exactly. Like the other thing that they're fighting against is obviously their ownership situation. After Peter Seidler died, there's like a literally family suing family at the top of the Padres organization. It's just a mess, and that's why they pretty much have lost a lot of major pieces to their team last year. Guys like Profar and Tanner Scott to the Dodgers, and they're still shopping now, and they haven't really added anyone. The only guy they brought back, I think, is Elias Diaz, the catcher, who's not like a groundbreaking move at all. And there's still trade rumors of guys like Michael King, Dylan Cease, Jake Cronenworth, these guys that make money. They're just trying to find a way to kind of cut payroll down while still supporting this team that does have the core of Tatis, Jack Zamero, who really stepped up big time last year, Manny Machado, and you're hoping mainly that you get something out of Xander Bogaerts on that big contract at this point. But besides that,
we'll get into Xander a little bit later when we bring up a segment later. But just in general, this team is. There's a lot of questions for me along the infield. Obviously defense isn't incredibly important, and I'm a guy that thinks defense almost, is way less important than most people think a lot of times. I mean, I'd rather have hitting than defense if you have to choose one of the two, but it is worth pointing out that this infield defense is not going to be very good, probably. I mean, Luis Arraez is probably going to have to play a position, or if he DHs, then you've got Xander Bogaerts, who's getting older, Jake Cronenworth having to either play first or second. Machado's Machado, and he's good. Or Xander Bogaerts is going to have to play short, So it's like, when you look at it, you're kind of looking at either Arraez having to play first or second. He can't play a position. It's going to be something to look out for, certainly.
I think. You go ahead, Stokes.
I think they're going to have to rely on a lot of their young like farm talent, like Vries, Fountain, Hightower, and Verdugo. I mean, they're like core of the farm system. And I really think now, in terms of like building another strong team in that division, the farm systems are what really going to have to look at to value a lot of these franchises. I mean, it's now you're just kind of waiting for a turn of tide in LA to really jump. And so I think what San Diego's big goal should be, if they want to be the best team in that division, is dominate and get yourself in the wild card and hope that the people that you're paying again all this money to are going to perform like they're worth. You know what I mean? Like if they can really continue to develop the guys like Fountain in their farm system, then they're gonna be okay. They just have to play consistent baseball, and they can't let guys get hurt.
I think go ahead, Slim.
It's exactly that. The sad reality is that this division, we play the games for a reason. But when you know the deep down truth is that most of these front offices like the Padres and the D-backs are going to get into it a little bit, and even the Giants, these guys know that they're fighting for that one, probably one wild card spot, maybe two if they're lucky. And then that's just the fact of it. And then the Padres went from a well-rounded team. These past couple years when they were spending a lot of money and willing to make these big deals. To help the roster now they just with the ownership situation change, the spending has changed, and with that now there are now major holes on this roster, like you guys said.
Yeah, they really.
Yeah, I mean, they as far as you're good. Like from last year and years to come, they're just going to continue to be brother to the Dodgers. It's like growing up with an older brother. I never did, but I'd like to think that it's like, as soon as you get close, I mean, the older brother hits puberty first, and he's still going to kick your ass.
I think that's a good transition to the Diamondbacks, because I would equate the Diamondbacks to being the little brother that is now older. If you put the Padres as the middle brother, now he's getting beat up by both of them, potentially, because the Diamondbacks got a lot of good young talent. They're going to be on the rise here soon.
So yeah, with the D-backs, when you look at the rotation on paper, it's pretty similar to last year. That looks really, really good. And obviously now they've added, in my opinion, probably, definitely a top 5. It's an easily top 5 addition, adding Corbin Burnes to that rotation. They have a really deep rotation now. I think Jordan Montgomery, he's coming off a bad year last year. He is the 6th guy now. The guy's got like Brandon Pfaadt, Merrill Kelly. A lot of these guys are really good. The main concern is just really you want to see guys like Gallen kind of regress. You want to see him bounce back and kind of be the ace he was. And then some of their additions, like another one of their big additions was getting Josh Naylor from the Guardians. But he's replacing Christian Walker, who provided a lot of value. Towards like, you got Josh Naylor, but did you get like a lot better considering you lost Christian Walker there? That's my other concern. I do really like Josh Naylor though. But there is a lot of positives. The main stat I put down, I think MLB Network tweeted out earlier this week, was in the second half, the D-backs offense was a lot better, and it was because of these two guys. The largest OPS increases, first half versus second half last year, number one was Vlad Jr., increasing by 309 points. And then after that, you have Corbin Carroll, who went up a total of 284 points. And then you have Eugenio Suarez, who went up 274 points. And obviously, Eugenio was a big part of it, too, especially because he provides the power. I think he finished with 30-something home runs, I think, last year.
Hey, real quick, Corbin Carroll was awful at the beginning of last season.
Oh, yeah.
That was mind-blowing how bad he was.
Yeah, and that's the main reason I put it down is because Corbin Carroll at the start of the year, people literally were like, he's just falling out of the sky right now. There were talks about, like, you might have to send him down at this point. Like, he was just an objectively terrible baseball player, but he seemed to have found it out, and that kind of correlated when the D-backs started to look better last year. But yeah, those are my main thoughts about the D-backs.
I think Suarez is going to be something to look out for because it's not like he's, a young guy that came on the scene last year. He's a veteran that had some really good years before. Back in Cincinnati, I think his time in Cincinnati is really underrated. He was a 30, 40 home run kind of guy. Slade, as a Mariners fan, did not get so much of that production from him with Seattle. If he can just, he doesn't have to be as good as he was last year, but he's got to be a little bit more consistent to just provide the lineup consistency overall, because I think that's where they could get caught up, is how consistent the lineup is, because there are some young pieces like Perdomo and Carroll, Alec Thomas, even to Moreno, the catcher. There's a lot of potential there, but you need a veteran like Suarez, along with obviously Ketel Marte, to add consistency in that lineup.
I'll touch real quick on Eugenio since you brought him up. You know, from a Mariners fan, he's really good his first year with us in 2022, like really good. And then the year after, he only hit 18 home runs. The power looked like it was dipping down, but he was an elite defender. And he's getting older. The bat's getting a little bit slower. That's why you worry that he's not going to have the power he did, which was why it was kind of a good thing to see him hit 30 home runs again with the D-backs in a hitter-friendly ballpark. But he is getting older. You always have to be worried that the production is going to fall off a cliff that it kind of looked like it was starting to do in 2023 for him. But yeah.
I think one of the biggest players that is going to be, and by the end of the season, I'm either going to be laughed at for saying this or I'm going to say I told you so. One of the biggest breakout players for them this year will be Jordan Lawler. And I just think he's so overwhelmingly good. And like he was injured last year and he got like 80, maybe 90 at-bats in their minor league farm system. But I think this year when he's like primed and ready to go, by the All-Star break, he will be one of their top hitters in their lineup. And he's going to, I mean, obviously he's going to start batting, 8, 9. But I guarantee you by the time September rolls around, that guy's hitting like 6. I just think he's too good of a talent, and they need him now. So I think by June, maybe as early as late May, we're going to see Jordan Lawler playing serious innings in big-time ball. And I think that's really going to be what they're going to have to hang on to, is developing him and hanging on to him for the super long haul and hoping that you still get the quality that you have around him, especially with the upgrades that they're making.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that take, Stokes. I mean, when you look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, they're just a really good, balanced baseball team, with a mix of veterans as well as rising stars, like you said, with Lawler and some other guys. My biggest concern with the with the Diamondbacks is the consistency issues, especially in pitching. It's like, can they take the next step of challenging the Padres and Dodgers? Like, I mean, consistently winning series against those guys, because at the end of the day, that's who you're going to be up against. Like, if you want to steal a wild card spot, you got to be able to compete with those types of teams. And
they're serious, man. Like, don't forget, they were a damn good team in 2023. They played some serious baseball that year, and a lot of people are forgetting that. And it was a forgettable World Series, but people are forgetting about that team, and that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, and a lot of people do say that, like, how the hell were the Diamondbacks in the World Series? A lot of people consider that a fluke, but they just played good baseball. They played good team baseball. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a team that you would like to root for.
Yeah,
realistically.
Absolutely. And I think, like we mentioned with the Padres, it's almost like, these teams, the Padres, Giants, Diamondbacks, they almost know they're not going to win the division. Obviously, probably in their clubhouses they have those aspirations still because they're all competitors. But at the end of the day, they kind of know they're going for that wild card spot. And for right now, the Diamondbacks, they got to look at jumping the Padres. And they're in a good spot. Like you said, though, it's the consistency. If they can be more consistent, I think that they could easily pass up the Padres this year because I think the Padres could have some consistency issues of their own. For the Diamondbacks, I'm not blown away by their bullpen. That's somewhere where if they're in it by the deadline, they're probably going to make some bullpen moves. A couple pieces there, but there's a couple of old pieces there. I'm not in love with the bullpen there. I hope that doesn't cost them too much.
And that's like this is like a really well-rounded team. Like you guys have said and everything like that. But we do have to give D-backs credit too. Their ownership. They're one of the only ownerships that honestly you can give credit to that they aren't one of these teams that slip into the Dodgers going to win our division regardless. Like, why would we go and spend money? Give the D-backs credit. They went and paid Jordan Montgomery last year. They went and they've made big moves, and they went and got Corbin Burns this offseason. They're one of the only non-big market teams to actually go out and do something a large impact for that team in a division that's almost spoken for. We've all kind of agreed on. So you do have to give the D-backs credit for that.
I mean, if this team was in the NL Central, they they got a good chance of winning it.
Exactly. Like the conversation changes completely if they weren't like in the Dodgers division. That yeah, like Pat said, if they're in the NL Central, we're like we're talking about the D-backs like there's like some big dogs. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to be one of the more fun teams to watch this year as the season goes, just to see how they develop and how they can, where they start and where they get better. I think they need to get off to a hot start and then just keep going from there. If they get off to a slow start in that division with the tough matchups they're going to have, it could kind of tumble.
Definitely.
So moving on to the San Francisco Giants, they're a team that year after year, it's like you almost have to just wait for the first 2 months of the season to see what's going to go on with the Giants, because it's just one year they're like terrible on paper and they win 100 games. Then another year they have a pretty good roster on paper and they just suck. It's really interesting to see what they're going to be able to do, especially now that it's not just them and the Dodgers like it was my entire childhood, it seemed like, where it was just the Dodgers and the Giants going at it. Now mixing the Padres and the Diamondbacks. The Giants could be slipping behind a little bit.
I
Yeah.
think.
Wait, I'll let Stokes
sorry, go
go.
ahead.
No, you go first, Stokes.
I think one of the big pieces is going to be your middle of the lineup guys. Well, I guess your top middle of the lineup guys performing like they should, like Willie Adames, Matt Chapman, Tyler Fitzgerald. Like, you need big seasons from them. And like you were saying, Machine, like I remember those days too when it was like Rangers Giants consistently were your two teams to watch, like the Bruce Bochy days. And I think they could easily find themselves there again. And they seem to they tease me every season with that. Like, the Giants are a real contender again this year. No, they're not. You know what I mean? So if they can continue to have guys produce, and even into the bottom of their lineup, like Yastrzemski and Ramos, these are, I mean, these are all really big players that they're going to have to get quality ABs in. And if they don't, then you got to shake things up immediately if you want to compete. I mean, this is what people market like the AL East as. Like, this is a competitive division every year, and they're just so stacked that they make a lot of these teams who are really quality, like the Diamondbacks, just look like AAA teams in a way. So I think if they can get production from the offensive side, the pitching side, hot take, I'm fine with it. Like, they're fine. They're gonna be okay. They got really quality stuff in the middle of the season last year, which to me is a big like talking point for a team. If your bullpen performs well in like June and July, then you're gonna be fine. And they had that, I thought, last year, and now it's just gonna come to relying on your offensive guys to go out there every day and get on base.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, obviously, they lack that offensive firepower, and like they're just going to finish middle of the pack, at best third, most likely fourth in the NL West. Just not a serious contender in 2025, unfortunately. Their strengths, however, I would say that they do develop young talent pretty good. That could be the foundation for success in the future, as well as a solid pitching rotation led by Logan Webb. But like I said, it just sucks that you're in the NL West.
Like I completely agree with you guys. Like, Pat, said this Giants team does develop players really well, whether it be the prospects or even just like veterans have kind of just picking guys off the scrap heap and getting the most out of them. The Giants are really good at that. And also, with Austin's point about the middle of this lineup, that's kind of where, if they're going to do anything in this division, that's where it's going to have to come from. A guy like Willie Adames, like you do worry about, Oracle Park there is a tough place to hit.
And
You hope that he does well.
One of the more hitter-friendly ballparks.
True.
Exactly. Like to where, like all the numbers and everything, I do like Willie Adames a lot, and I do believe he'll do well there. But there is like a little bit of concern with that. And then it's just guys like Lamont Wade, Matt Chapman, Yastrzemski, and Ramos, like those guys getting their power numbers in and providing for the offense. But I guess the main thing where I differ from you guys is like this rotation, it could be really good, but there's a lot of like Logan Webb kind of like took a step back last year compared, like he was a solidified ace pretty much, and last year took a little bit of a step back. I'm a big Robbie Ray guy, but he's a little bit older, coming off injury. Like Robbie Ray, I think is a pretty good pitcher, and then you have Justin Verlander, who's still really old. No, I have no idea what you're going to get out of Justin Verlander, to be honest.
4 years ago, if you had Robbie Ray and Justin Verlander in your rotation, you're going to the series. But it is 2025.
No, exactly. And then like Kyle Harrison, a lot of people liked Kyle Harrison going into last year, and he just did not step up. So, like, granted, like some guys like are gonna burst out on the scene like a little bit later than others, but he didn't really last year. That a lot of people were hoping for. And then Jordan Hicks at the beginning of last season the Giants looked like geniuses moving him to the rotation because he was pitching really well, and then the wheels fell off, and he went back to he's a
coming from the
average
Cardinals fan. All they had to do was, I can't remember if it was 21 or 22, but all they literally had to do was watch the beginning of that season because the Cardinals did the same thing, and it looked pretty good at the beginning. He just his style of pitching is not like conducive to pitching a ton of innings, and eventually he's also just in general like we always talk about like streaky hitters a lot, and Jordan Hicks is a streaky pitcher. He literally will be the best pitcher in baseball for like 3 weeks, and then he will be the worst pitcher in baseball for another 6. It's just how he is.
No shade, because he's coming from the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the truth. I mean, I've seen it. It's just how it is. And I feel bad for Jordan Hicks because he did get kind of screwed over by the Cardinals. He never, fun fact, other than rehab starts that he may have had, he never pitched in Double or Triple A. He got called up to the big leagues as a 21-year-old, straight from Single A because he threw 100 miles an hour. And that was cool at first. And then the league realized, yeah, this stuff's nasty, it moves a lot, but we just don't have to swing. And now he's just, an average pitcher.
And that's the thing with this Giants rotation for me. It's like all these guys I like in one way or the other, but there are just these glaring, issues with them. Whether it be like Verlander, he's very old. Robbie Ray, but he can be inconsistent and he's kind of, banged up, at this point in his career.
Another glaring red flag, like sore thumb, is the fact that Wilmer Flores plays baseball for the San Francisco Giants. I wrote his numbers down. I didn't pick him for my segment we're going to do later, but I need to say this. 206 last year. 206, 277, 318. And you're starting as the DH? I don't get it. You have better hitters who can fill that role. Send him packing. I'm so sick of Wilmer Flores. He has sucked. He has underperformed every single year. And I knew I was going to get fired up about this when I was taking notes on stuff. I knew I was going to get mad about Wilmer Flores because I have since he started playing baseball.
Shout out that time he cried on an MLB broadcast.
That's like an all-time moment though with the Mets.
Oh yeah.
He's still loved in New York with the Mets fans because that's probably why Stokes hates him, is just because, like, being the Yankees fan, he's like, oh, the Mets love this guy? I fucking hate him.
Well, because the Mets, don't have brain cells when they decide who they're going to make the face of their franchise. Like, they are betting on Burger Boy to be the guy. And that's why, dude. Like, why was so much time invested into making these random ball players the face of the franchise? It just has no correlation with what happens for 162 games a year because they never perform well in the playoffs. I'm not even going to add on to that. It's just consistently like random guys who are like, yeah, you're okay. We're going to make you the face of the New York Mets. And that's just what happens, man, every year.
Now I can't wait till we talk about the NL East.
It's a new day. Like, that'll be a great discussion when we do our NL East. But I get, my final thought I do want to say about the Giants. This will be an interesting team to watch, too, for the trade deadline. Because, like we said, they have a lot of guys like Lamont Wade, like Yastrzemski, and even guys like Ramos, to where if this thing does not get off to a great start, and they are floating around that, fourth place range, which I think a lot of us are kind of, thinking for them right now, they're a team that probably should obviously trade some of these guys like Lamont Wade get something back and reload for next year and the year after.
Yeah, I think that's probably the spot they'll be in come the trade deadline. We'll have to see. I mean, again, a few years ago I thought that they were toast and they won like 100 games. So you almost never know with the Giants, but we'll see.
Oh, wait. I have one more thought on the Giants. I promise. I did write this down because I feel like when we look at the Giants, I even think the Giants themselves, they truly are just chasing that high of 2021 when they won 107 games and beat out another stacked Dodgers team. But besides that, I wrote down like 2017 they had 64 wins, 18 73, 2019 77. They're 2 games below 500 in 2020, and obviously 2021. Again, they had the 14th most wins in MLB history that season. And then the year after, 81 and 81 average, 23 79 wins, 24 80 wins. They're just average. And that's probably what they're going to be this year, even though they've made moves I like Willie Adames.
I really forgot they had that run. That's crazy.
I wish I could. I wish I could.
Like
keeps me up at night.
It will go down in history, the 2021 Giants, as being just one of the biggest outliers in baseball history.
Well, going from a team that is average, as Slater put it, we now unfortunately have to talk about the team on Pat's chest. And I say unfortunately only because I don't want to, ruin Pat's feelings here. But we're going to a very below-average team, and that would be the Colorado Rockies' beautiful stadium. And that's about the best thing I'll say.
Hey, real quick. Is the fact that it's in Denver like why they are functioning? Is that like it? Is that what is that like what puts people in the stadium now? Genuinely, because I can't figure it out why people go to Rockies games other than the fact that you're in Denver.
No, you're absolutely right. And I actually do have to crack a beer for once we got to the Rockies.
Yeah, but it's not a Coors.
Nice.
No, I'm drinking Miller Lite and not Coors for that reason. No, that you're exactly right. That I'm going to get fired up talking about this, but ownership knows that they're going to sell out the stadium like on a crazy. I mean, Coors Field is a tourist attraction. People go to Colorado. What they look up? What are things to do in Denver? They see Rockies games. Oh, how much are tickets? $8.
Hey, what was the score of that Angels game a couple years ago? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Like 26-4 or something like that?
Something absolutely crazy.
They've had a few just games, especially obviously with the Dodgers in that division. Like a couple games where it's just a football score of like, oh yeah, Rockies lost 21-3 today.
Yeah.
I think I can say I've never watched the Rockies play baseball. And on TV, I have never seen the Rockies play other than MLB The Show. That's my experience with the Rockies.
I envy you
folks,
for that.
He's going to give takes on him anyway because that's how we roll. What? Funny enough, like we have in our notes, we're probably going to talk about the Rockies more in our next couple of segments after this than we do here. The thing I wrote down here when trying to break down the roster was who's going to break out and get traded at the deadline to a contender? Who are some candidates you guys think?
I think the one that could is a guy like Nolan Jones, who had, I believe he had 4 wins above replacement the year before last, but then last year was just a bad baseball player. I think it was even negative like 0.7 WAR or something like that. To where if he gets back to where he was, the year before, he's an obvious trade candidate. But that's the thing about the Rockies, and that's why they're frustrating, is because it could be like a glaring, obvious thing that trade Nolan Jones now, get some value back for him because you don't always going to be like trade him and get value. But this Colorado Rockies team does not operate like a sane major league team, and that's why it's so hard to understand, talk about them, or even get excited, is because the front office, the ownership is just truly just the shadow realm of Major League Baseball.
No, I mean, it's the same shit every single year at the trade deadline. I feel like it's Groundhog Day and I'm Bill Murray, where it's like, I wake up, look at my phone, have the Rockies done anything? Nope. It's crazy. It's mind-boggling. I could go on and on just ranting about this team.
A player I could Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I mean, I really do want to root for this team. I mean, it's my hometown team. I grew up watching this team. Grew up going to Coors Field. I mean, I tried to go to a game at least once a month with my dad growing up, and
It's the last
you know,
time
that was
they
the
had
highlight.
last time they had good teams was when you were growing up.
Exactly, and it was so fun. And Coors Field is such a great environment to have a good baseball team. And it just sucks that ownership and the Monforts they don't care about the fans at the end of the day because they know they're going to sell out Coors Field.
I think the most damning thing about this organization is that they are so bad, and yet they don't. I don't know if they have bad scouts or they just don't develop well, but it doesn't seem like they develop their prospects very well either. And then so they just can't get out of it. It almost seems. And not that they try, like you said, Pat. Sometimes wasn't there a couple years ago maybe that they just didn't trade anybody at the deadline, didn't try
Yeah.
to get prospects. And even when they do, it seems like they don't develop them very well, and it's like purgatory almost. It's weird.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember when this team had Cargo and Trevor Story and Charlie Blackman? And they
Yeah,
were
that's-
like,
And
they
they had
were
Nolan
all in their
Arenado.
prime. Yeah,
They had-
every one of those players was in their prime. That was, and now we're looking at what's Toglia or whatever to
Oh yeah,
form.
Michael Toll.
I mean,
the G is silent.
you know,
They also had DJ LeMahieu as well.
That's true.
Yankee great.
What's it like? The Rockies are just so poorly ran that like when they have these guys and it's like, okay, it's time to trade Trevor Story. You know, it's time to trade Nolan Arenado. They really wait out until they've kind of lost the max value for him, and when they trade him, they get really nothing in return. I mean, like Nolan Arenado, they got nothing. They've Austin
Yeah.
Gomber,
As a
who's like the
Cardinals
4-star
fan,
now.
as a Cardinals fan, Nolan Arenado's been pretty disappointing, but it's still I can't be mad at it because we gave up Austin Gomber, Elhuris Montero, Carson Kelly's brother that was like a 13th round relief pitcher that probably never played above Double-A, and they ate a lot of the contract. So it's like, yeah, he was.
How do you
disappointing
not
for
start
us.
Nolan Arenado though?
Like
Like,
it's just,
well,
he's been
like
disappointing,
no.
but we didn't give up anything for him. So
Let's see. Like Machine, you got some good years out of Nolan Arenado, and again, you gave nothing up for him. I think the worst one is Trevor Story because they just let him walk. They didn't even like literally with like it's like you trade Trevor Story now, you lose him for the 3 months. Like it, like I don't know if they really were confident they're going to re-sign him. Which if they were, again, that just to me shows that this is just a kind of moronic front office. And I think the evidence shows that because there's not a ton of moves. Like I honestly I can't think of a Rockies move that they've made like the past half decade to even decade that I've been like that was a great move by the Rockies.
Yeah. I mean, here's my hot take with the Rockies. I think that they should go out on a limb and they should sign Trevor Bauer. I mean, why not? He said
If anybody's gonna do it,
yeah, he'll play for the league minimum. I mean, the Rockies, obviously nobody wants to pitch there. Here's a guy who said, I'll pitch anywhere, basically for free. Why not the Rockies? I mean, it's the type of attention that the Rockies need at this point. I mean, you look at their social media, you scroll through the comments, half of them on any post, whether it's a win, loss, a birthday post about Chris Bryant, half the people are saying sell the team. It's just all negative comments. Let's get something different. Let's get a little bit, even if it's controversy with Trevor Bauer, I think that'd be sweet.
I'm gonna turn on the TV in September to see Trevor Bauer throwing and Kyle Farmer catching.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
Pat just is ready for the Rockies just to burn at that point. If you bring Trevor Bauer, I mean that is just full on like fuck it, like why not?
I mean, honestly, it's the fire I think that the organization needs at this point. If you're gonna make a change, why not just do something crazy like that?
So far, you know what
Yeah,
their
I mean-
move is to put butts in seats this year? Their move to put butts in seats this year was to make Charlie Blackman a like pointless like front office role.
Yeah, like assistant to, like whatever, like a Dwight Schrute ass.
Yeah. They're like, hey,
Position.
Charlie Blackman's still going to be around the ballpark, maybe. Please come.
Yeah,
They're gonna suit him up.
honestly,
dude.
probably.
I actually have a hot take that this won't like this deal would make absolutely no sense in the grand scheme of things, which is why it's probably the perfect Rockies move. Like Pete Alonso signing with the Rockies on like a 1 or 2 year deal and just cranking out like 60 home runs and then just going back to the free agency market. It seems like that'd be a good idea for Pete Alonso, and also the Rockies would be like, well, fuck, we got no plan over here. Why not? Like,
Well, I also thought it'd be a good idea for them. I thought Chris Bryant going to them was going to be a good idea for him because I thought he was just going to try to hit as many home runs as possible for the Hall of Fame case. Like, I thought that's why he signed there. And, like, why else? Like, I thought, oh, he just wants to see if he can get to 400 or 500 home runs and be a Hall of Famer. That didn't work out too well for him, so maybe Pete should stay away. Although, I hate Pete Alonso, and so go ahead.
exactly. But no, to me that makes sense for Pete. Again, just go there, crank a bunch of Mickey Mouse cores, altitude home runs, and then just go back to the market because it's obviously that the market has just turned against you at this point.
Sorry to
Could
go
you
down
bet-
this again, but Pete Alonso's not going anywhere because he has Queens, like he's got his nuts in their mouth constantly, and that's never going to go away, and he's never going to go away.
Imagine going to Coors Field and seeing Pete Alonso jerseys as well as Trevor Bauer jerseys.
Fever dream.
And then you got Chris Bryant still, like, again, sometimes, like, at this point, like, most people forget Chris Bryant exists like that. Like,
Selling
the
suckers.
Rockies are just on their own level of just ineptitude, truly.
Yeah. I mean, you can only fantasize with this team at that point.
It is now time for the inaugural Pack Your Bags segment, which is going to be a reoccurring segment on this show. Well into the regular season and the off season, doesn't matter. It is who we are. The Pack Your Bags watch is one of the first memes, or the greatest meme we made in Palm Springs when we all worked together there, talking about players who were bad and need to pack their bags and go down to the lesser league or just straight up get out of Palm Springs. So it's going to stay the same for the MLB, NCAA, whatever we do. It's simple. Pack your bags. Get off my team. Get off this team. You suck. So to start, it's going to be, for the off-season segments, it's going to be more so watch out for this player. If they don't perform, they're going to pack their bags. So we're not saying anybody's going to pack their bags just yet, but these guys better get off to a hot start or they're gone. So I will let Slater start this off, since I believe he was the person who first coined pack your bags. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Correct.
I think Slater was the first person to coin that, so you can start this segment off. Who do you think might have to pack their bags this season?
I think this is just I'm almost pretty positive this guy is going to be packing his bag at some point early on in the season. It's partially because of what he did last year. It's Jordan Montgomery, the Arizona Diamondbacks. When in the offseason press conference, your owner literally says that signing you was a, quote, horrible decision while you're still on the roster actively, that's not a good sign. I mean, there's just right now, Jordan Montgomery. Like that is just the guy just wants the bag, and like because I think it's $25 million or something like that he's making this year. So that's the other thing. He makes a lot of money for the D-backs. Right now, he's slotted to be their sixth starter. They already have a good rotation without him. So while I do think Jordan Montgomery's still a good pitcher, like I don't think he's garbage. I think he's probably going to go to another team and pitch pretty well. I think I'd be shocked if Jordan Montgomery is still logging any type of innings for the D-backs when it comes to like maybe even like May. I honestly think Jordan Montgomery is a guy when someone inevitably probably goes down spring training or at least hits the IL for a while on one of these other teams. Jordan Montgomery is going to be the starter that is going to be at the top of the market for these guys to get. So yeah, Jordan Montgomery, pack your bags. It was nice to have you in Arizona, but it's over.
He's such a polarizing pitcher because, like, you know, we got a Yankees fan here and a Cardinals fan and myself, and he was great for the Cardinals. Like, really good. Really, really, really good. And then he decided to cash in on that, and it didn't work out so well in his first season with the Diamondbacks. But he just seems like a kind of guy that, like, can't figure out what type of pitcher he wants to be. Like, when he was with the Yankees, they apparently, like, they told him, throw your high fastball. and he got shelled when he tried to do that. He came to the Cardinals. They said, "No, throw your sinker," and he pitched pretty well. But then
pitched pretty well, taking the Rangers almost single-handedly, just carrying that team through the playoffs to the World Series too.
And then he goes to the Diamondbacks and he just can't figure it out. It's like I don't know. It's like he can't figure himself out in a way.
No, exactly. I think he'll put it together. I think he'll be a solid starter for someone else this season. It's not going to be for the D-backs. I mean, I don't know why he would want to be there at this point, besides just the large sum of money he's already agreed to. Exactly. Yeah, that's really all I have.
The Yankees fans got to have some sort of Jordan Montgomery take care. Or not. All right. Moving on.
So
we'll go to Mr. Party Pat. Now, the life of the party, also very smart data analytics guy. Who do you think is on Pat Your Back's watch this season, Pat?
Unfortunately, my Pack Your Bags watch is a player that I really do enjoy watching. I mean, that I used to enjoy watching. Used to play for the Cubs, now with the Rockies. If you might have guessed by now, it's Kris Bryant. And I am optimistic for him this year. And when you look at his contract, the Rockies signed him for a 7-year, $182 million contract in 2022. And this makes him currently the 26th highest paid player in the MLB per year, making $26 million per year. And so over the last 3 years, obviously he's battled different injuries and whatnot. In 2022, he played 42 games, 2023, 80 games, and in 2024, 37 games. And so in that span, looking at all of those games combined, he's played a total of 159 games. So just about a year's worth of games. And he's had 593 at-bats and a batting average of 250. So realistically, not bad if you were to take that as a single season. However, looking at it from the Rockies standpoint, they've burned 2 years of his contract have been him hurt. And so that's $52 million that they've just pissed away. However, I mean, looking at those numbers, like his 250 batting average, that's a hurt Kris Bryant over a 3-year span. Imagine a healthy Kris Bryant. He might be hitting 280 with, 25 pumps. So I like I said, I am optimistic. However, if he continues to be so injury prone, it's just going to hurt the Rockies, and it's just going to be the downfall of his career.
I alluded to it a little bit earlier, but talk about a guy that was on an incredible Hall of Fame pace to start his career. All right, Rookie of the Year, MVP, win a World Series. It's like, okay, the accolades are there. Now just get your counting stats and you're in. And that's why I thought, okay, go to Colorado. Even my best friend back home in Illinois is a Cubs fan, and that's what he thought. He said, hey, he's going to go hit as many home runs as he can for 7 years, get those counting stats up, and then he'll go into the Hall of Fame with the Cubs hat on anyway. And it just has not worked out that way.
Yeah. And, thinking about it, too, with guys in Colorado who were really good at one point, I think of Troy Tulowitzki, who was really good in the mid-2000s, made a good run with the World Series with that 2007 team. And then into the 2010s, he was just injury prone. And that's another guy, too. I mean, his career is off to a hot start. If he stayed healthy, he'd be a Hall of Famer by now. And same thing with Kris Bryant. Unfortunately, he looks like he's on a similar path, if not worse, than Troy Tulowitzki's.
I think that's actually a really good comp, Tulowitzki to Bryant. It's almost almost like generational infielders that have everything, and then just falling off a cliff. Towards the end of there, you're kind of looking for the last little bit of their prime.
It sucks too. I mean, because Tulo was a guy growing up, as a kid, that was my hero in Colorado, and then into my teenage years, my hero was Kris Bryant, And then just to see as I get older, each of those guys fall off, it's kind of like I'm growing up and I realize that reality's shitty, you know?
Well, moving on to Stokes, pack your bags, watch player. I believe you've got another Colorado Rocky up.
Yeah, no introduction needed. Kyle Farmer, find a hobby. I have his stats from the past couple of years. Hey, here's a real humdinger. 2024 for the Twins, 215 at-bats. He crossed the plate 26 times, knocked in 25 guys, hit for 214. You may be thinking that's bad. Well, here's 2023, 336 at bats, 49 times coming across the plate, 86 hits with 46 RBIs, a 256 stat line. I don't know. Get him out of here. I mean, he has never been good. I found this article from Twins Daily, April 26, 2024, the title, "What the hell happened to Kyle Farmer and is it fixable?" Okay, he's still getting quality ABs, and that's what people think about it. The Rockies are going down in a fast way, and they are, for some reason, putting their hope and trust in Kyle Farmer, someone who has literally never been good. You cannot find me a season, whether it be in Cincinnati, when he was coming off the bench in LA, in Minnesota. You can't find me a season where you can say, yeah, Kyle Farmer played a big part in that lineup. Because he has never, I don't get why they keep putting him in the starting lineup year after year, or at least giving him as many at-bats as he gets, like 300-400 a year. That is ridiculous. He has never provided like good quality, consistent ABs down the stretch. And so it makes no sense for me to keep him around, even in an organization like the Rockies.
Well, I think the idea has always been with him that like he's a really good clubhouse guy. So it's like, okay, he can hit lefties a little bit. He's a good clubhouse guy, you know. So I can see why he'd be rostered, but he does end up always getting like starting reps when he probably shouldn't.
But having a clubhouse guy hasn't worked. So why are they still trying to do? Like, I get it is an important part of a baseball team. The personality hire matters. Like Rizzo was a clubhouse guy for the Yankees through and through. He was awful this year or last year for the Yankees. But they just don't have room for a clubhouse guy. If you want to try to be a professional baseball team, you're playing the way you have, and they're probably inching to like a 70-90 season. You don't have the open spots to have a clubhouse guy in your starting nine every day.
Let's and we've ragged on the Rockies, but like so much, but like that just again how they operate. Like last year, granted, it almost worked out for them. They brought like Jacob Stallings, who's just looked like he was cooked, and Jacob Stallings was not terrible last year. He's above a slightly above average replacement player. And Kyle Farmer used to be that kind of a slightly above average, just like guy you could plug in at spots, but he's not that anymore. Now he's just an old, not great player. That's pretty again. It's the Rockies. He's just filling a spot for now until he has to pack his bags, according to Austin Stokes.
Heard it here first. Well, you didn't hear it here first. You've been hearing it for 4 years. Anyway, go ahead.
In the future, we will have sponsorships for the Austin Stokes rant section of the show. Hopefully, one of his best qualities is his ability to rant about anything, and that's what I love about him. Now, getting into my pack your bags player, coming into the season in the NL West, I've got a guy that it might be hard to have pack his bags because of how much money is tied to him, but it's Xander Bogaerts, and he's just so interesting to me. Like his fall off last year, because you think, okay, yeah, he's been around quite a while, and he's making some money, and now he's falling off. Last year was his age 31 season. Most guys don't get to free agency until then. We forget that he started back in 2013 as just a 20-year-old in the big leagues. There's honestly zero reason why a guy should fall off that hard in his age 31 season. And they're paying him a lot of money, and like we talked about in the Padres segment, it's hindering the rest of their roster. Like, they have all that money tied up in a few guys. He's one of them. And if he's going to hold up that money, hold up their ability to add to the roster, and play like he did last year again, you got to find a way to cut loose if you can.
What's it like? He's making all that money to where it's just so hard to cut loose. And like, it's crazy. I literally thought, like, off the top of my head, for whatever reason, I was like, oh, he didn't play that much last year. He played 111 games.
Yeah.
But he just did nothing noteworthy. Like a guy like as big of a name as Xander Bogaerts on a team like the Padres, who actually was doing stuff last year and playing well, to just be like, again, just not noteworthy. I think his WAR was like 1.2 last year, which is for a guy of his status with his contract. It's terrible too. Along with the fact that he got moved off shortstop because he's just a bad defender.
Yeah, last year was the first time since 2017 that he had an OPS plus under 117, which was 2023 was 117, which is his worst year in that stretch. Before he had a 92 OPS plus last season, and it just dropped off the table. He didn't slug last year like he usually did. Only hit 11 homers. He only had 28 walks last year. That was the one looking last night that really stood out to me. He played 111 games and only had 28 walks. That, for reference, in the shortened 2020 season, he played 56 games and had 21. So he had 50 more games and only 7 more walks compared to 2020. Now I didn't watch every game, and I don't know this to be the case for sure, but that sounds like a guy that's cashing in and giving up. If he's just not even going to work at bats and work walks. I mean, historically, he's getting at least 56 walks, or 50 to 60 walks a season, and then last year, less than 30. That's just unreal. That was the stat that popped out to me the most, I think. That he just almost didn't care. Didn't slug, didn't get on base, doesn't play defense.
Yeah, I kind of thought like the Bogaerts contract was going to turn into kind of a problem for the Padres, especially with how big it was when it initially got signed. I am pretty shocked that it's already just this behemoth that I forget who reported, but it was already reported that the Padres, because they want to get rid of money, we're willing to get rid of a top prospect just to get rid of this contract. And we're only, let me think. Again, what are we, like 2 years into that deal?
Yeah,
I think
he's only played with him for 2 years. His age 30 and 31 season. It was a long deal.
So
and like by the end of it, this is going to look bad, but it's looked bad at the beginning.
What's the 11-year deal? I thought, okay, when you get to like years 8, 9, 10, 11, it's going to be pretty terrible. But you're hoping that, with this window and the guys at the roster, it's like he's going to play well for the first couple of years, and they have a good chance to win a ring with that. And it's just that contract has just been an absolute disaster.
So, Xander Bogaerts, along with, unfortunately, a top prospect. Unfortunately, if you're a Padres fan, pack your bags coming up this season, it looks like. Now, we can get back into the positive. We can wrap up on a positive note. We're going to have a stay hot section now in the off season when we're breaking down the rosters. This can be more so maybe a guy you expect to break out, or in the case of Pat, as we'll get into, maybe just literally stay hot from last season to this season. But we're going to get into some guys we think could break out or just have a really good season in the NL West this year. And I'll throw it to Pat because he's got the most unorthodox one of all of us. I think he just went with the guy that's going to stay hot. Pat, who's your stay hot player for the NL West this year?
I mean, honestly, I don't think it's unorthodox at all. I think it's more obvious than anything. I mean, who's the unicorn of baseball right now? It's Shohei Ohtani. Best player in baseball, in my opinion, and he is so fun to watch. And, one of my favorite guys. I collect baseball cards, and every single year I'm trying to get as many Shohei Ohtani cards as I can, just because of his value right now, and his value in the future is just immense. And so,
pay for the kids' college one day.
Exactly. And so he's coming off of a historic 2024 season, obviously the very first 50-50 club member, where he recorded 50 plus home runs as well as 50 plus stolen bases, which is just incredible to me. In addition, he won his third MVP award and third Silver Slugger. And most importantly for him, I'm sure, He led the Los Angeles Dodgers to their 8th World Series title. Goddamn those Dodgers. But he's truly solidified his status as the greatest player in baseball, in my opinion. And so my biggest prediction, I mean, it's almost like a hot take too, is if he resumes pitching and if he gets chances to start and he catches his stride on the mound, he's got the potential to be a Cy Young contender. With, I mean, you look at the Dodgers offense, I mean, they got the sticks behind him. As long as he puts up quality starts, he'll be just fine. Looking at challenges for Shohei Ohtani, as Stokes mentioned earlier in the podcast, the physical toll of being a two-way player is significant. And I've seen it at the collegiate level, guys who are two-way players. After a couple of years, most of the time, guys like either choose to be a PO or a positional player. And it's just a tough task to do. But like I mentioned, he's the unicorn of baseball. I mean, he's doing things that never thought that we'd see. We may not ever see again. And so outlook for 2025 with Shohei Ohtani, if he stays healthy, he could break more records and obviously redefine modern baseball even further.
I like it.
Moving on down to Mr. Austin Stokes, who do you have as a potential breakout player or just a guy that's going to stay hot going into this season?
I really like Jackson Merrill this year. I think he should have won Rookie of the Year last year and would have were he not competing with like generational rookie Paul Skeens. The craziest thing about last year for him is that going into spring training, he never played center field ever. Like a day job shortstop guy, and then they threw him out there, and for him to like swim like he did is nuts to me. He's got a year under his belt. I'm hoping he doesn't kind of fall by the wayside and have a start to his season like other guys who have won the Rookie of the Year have their sophomore year. But I really think he's going to be, able to carry a lot of the underside of that team in respects to like the big dogs you have there with like Machado and Bogarts and, guys like that. I think he's going to be able to kind of see where he fits in the lineup this year after getting some of those, rookie year nerves off and really start to settle himself in as a career outfielder. It just sucks, honestly, that there's really no room for him in the infield because he was incredible as a shortstop. And that move isn't really something you see all that often, especially for them to succeed at the level that he did. I really think he's going to be able to carry a significant amount of weight for the Padres this year. And I really think he's going to have a super stellar sophomore season.
You could definitely see it. I mean, he really had to step up last year, like you mentioned. They threw him out there in the center field. To bring it back to my pack your bags guys, Andrew Bogart. Sorry about the Padres putting two generational shortstops in Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jackson Merrill, saying, hey, go play the outfield because we just signed this guy. And then they had to move him off shortstop anyway. But regardless, Merrill had to step up last season to help them out in their playoff push. And like we talked about earlier, whether there might lack some consistency, he's going to have to do it again to help them stay towards the top of that division.
No, I think for them to even just stay ahead of the D-backs, you need Merrill to even take another step. He's kind of the guy because Tatis is already at superstar level. I guess you could say Machado, get back to being kind of in the MVP conversation, but I don't know if Machado's going to do that. But Jackson Merrill, I think, is the one who has the ability to take a step forward, and the Padres need it with how this offseason's gone.
Yeah, I think he really fits in well with the culture and with the team around him. You have the spotlight taken in a lot of ways with your infield, but he seems really content with the place he is. Not to say that I think he's going to stay in not the background, but the B ground of the Padres. You have so many factors at play with a team like this, especially when you have guys as old as a lot of their infield is. You really need your younger talent to be the foundation of that team, especially a team like that. And you just need him to be so over. And it's been the theme of this whole podcast. You need guys who are overly consistent with the way that they hit and their approach at the plate and the way that they see the ball. Like, you need guys to come in and do this every single day. And if there is a guy on that roster who's going to do it, it's him. I mean, there's just not a lot of wiggle room for him to be a bad player or for him to backslide. He has to live up to the expectations, and especially now that he's, gotten really used to being in the outfield, I think he's just going to have to settle in, find his stride early, and find his stride often. And I think that is going to really carry the Padres a long way, especially if he hits this year in the postseason like he did last year. Early on, being able to really find the ball and being able to make solid contact and disrupt the team that was as good as what he was facing at that time. He really threw kind of a wrench in a lot of teams' plans at the plate. He wasn't easy to get by, and this year coming in, he's ranked by MLB as the second best center fielder in that conference, and the first place is Julio. So I mean, what are you gonna do? He's on track to really make a name for himself in San Diego, and he really could be their guy for a long time to come if they can keep him around.
So Stokes and Pat both were with guys that had really good seasons last year, and they're looking for them to stay hot coming into this season. For me, I'm going with the guy that I think maybe will break out a little bit more. He's not been bad. I just think that he's got another step to take, and that is the catcher for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Gabriel Moreno. He's the guy that has all these kind of tools. He's been a top prospect. He was in the Blue Jays organization, got traded over, and he's a really good defender. He's already won a Gold Glove. He did that in 2023. He's just got to put some other things together, and one of the main things is that you notice as maybe why he hasn't broke out yet. He's only got 13 home runs in his career, and he's played over 200 games. He's not been able to hit for a ton of power that way, and I was really confused by that because I remember him being a guy with power potential in the minor leagues. And I went on Baseball Reference, looking at the advanced batting. His exit velos are around, he averages around 90 miles per hour, which is pretty good. He's got a 41% hard hit rate. Where the catch is he just hits everything into the ground. His ground ball rate last year was 49.6%. Before that, it was 55.3%. So he's just got to learn to hit the ball in the air a little bit more, and that power potential comes through because he hits the ball hard, but it's just straight into the ground. If he can add a little bit more home run potential, it's at that position. It's the catcher. I mean, he plays Gold Glove defense. All you want is if you get 15 home runs in a season, hitting 270 as a Gold Glove level defensive catcher, you are a godsend for your team, and I think he can be that guy. He just got to adjust a couple of things in his swing.
Yeah, that's a great take. I especially agree. Getting that ball in the air is huge, especially going from lower levels of baseball, collegiate league, minor leagues. Once you get to the big leagues, I mean, these defenders are no joke. They'll eat up any baseball, throw you at first. You got to get that ball in the air.
One thing too with with Gabriel Moreno is for the D-backs, the stat you said about the home runs again is crazy considering the amount of games he's played. But I think that's the other thing too, from the D-backs perspective, is in the playoffs in 2023. Part of the reason they made that run is he showed the ability to hit home runs. I don't know off the top of my head how many home runs he hit. I would guess 3 or 4, which is crazy to do in one postseason compared to your whole career track record that we have now. And last year he did take a step back, I think, from that playoff hype. And I do like Zach's take that I think he figures it out and stays healthy and puts together a good season.
I think I agree. I totally agree with Zach. I mean, I think a lot of the thing that he's going to go through is coming off of a World Series rebound season is tough for every team unless you're a powerhouse. So now that you've gotten that out of your mind, wait, we just made the World Series, why are we bad? And then continuing to spiral with that, I think he's really able to find a stride, like you guys are saying, just shed some of that off and play day-to-day baseball again.
Yeah, I mean, and it's worth pointing out he was, last year wasn't a terrible season. By OPS plus it was 105, so that's 5% above average. He's right there around the average mark. I just think that that was only his age 24 season. He's going into his age 25 season. I think there's still more potential to tap into there.
No, definitely.
So as much as we've ragged on the Rockies, we're going to end off with Slater being able to talk a little bit positive, at least about an individual on the Rockies. Slater, who's your breakout or stay hot player for the NL West?
Oh yeah, this offseason, the guy that I've just kind of almost like fallen in love with at this point is Brenton Doyle, center fielder for your Colorado Rockies. Just an elite defender out there. Literally last night to prep for the show, I was watching Brenton Doyle highlights, and specifically after that, Brenton Doyle defensive highlights. Because it's just fun. Like, he's just so fast out there. I believe he's 99th percentile in sprint speed in the MLB. Coors Field, obviously their outfield is known for being massive. Just seeing him cover gap to gap that large outfield is pretty remarkable. People almost kind of like Brenton Doyle too. Offensively last year, bat 260. He had 23 home runs. All that together, like for a WAR was a WAR of like 4 compared to I think Jackson Merrill almost winning the Rookie of the Year, won a Silver Slugger. Jackson Merrill's WAR was 4.4. So I think it just shows like Brenton Doyle was sneakily very good this year or last year. And I think this year, I like his bat. I think especially in that ballpark, there's definitely another step for him to take. And honestly, I think he's gonna be like a 5, maybe even 6 win player. Like that's kind of like what I'm projecting onto him. I think if his back can come along like I think it can, I think he can reach that mark. Just because the
correct
defense
me
is
if
so
I'm
good.
wrong. Didn't he win 2 Gold Gloves?
He might have won one last year.
I think he did.
He did. Yeah, he won 2 Gold Gloves. I did not think he won one in 2023. That's wild. But yeah, no, he's won 2 Gold Gloves. Like again, the guy is just. You almost just have to watch his defensive highlights. Again, the guy's just crazy, and he's so fast. And the bat is again pretty good, and especially playing Coors Field, you can put up some good offensive numbers, as we all know. So yeah, I'm all in on Brenton Doyle. He won the spot. I almost was going to give it. I have to give a quick shout out to Ezekiel Tovar, who I also do like. They almost have a similar thing. They're both elite defenders. That I think the bat can take another step, but I think Brenton Doyle's a better player than Tovar.
I agree totally.
It's center field is the same in a lot of ways to catcher. Where it's like most teams prioritize defense, and he's got that. He's got the speed. He's got the defense, and I think like you were saying, I think he's got more of a bat than people have been giving him credit for. And even in center field, you'll take that defense, and then you'll say, okay, just be like 260, hit 9th or whatever. But he's got some power potential. I think that makes him really valuable across the league. And on a team like the Rockies, you want to show out to the rest of the league almost, in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're saying, Slater, about the highlights, I really don't keep up with the Rockies as much as I used to. But it seems like during the season, like at least a couple times a week, I'm seeing highlights at Coors Field of Doyle or Nolan Jones making these fabulous plays in the outfield, making crazy catches at a huge ballpark, throwing out guys at the plate, and it's really impressive, just really impressive to see. And so, if the Rockies are serious, that they could either build something around these guys or fall down the pit of what they do every year at the end of the year with the trade deadline.
I think his best bet right now is to hope that the Rockies do make a move at the trade deadline and send him to a real contender team. Like, if you throw him in either Central Division, face the franchise. Like, no doubt. Like, when he's playing in normal elevation and when he's just, playing good, solid defensive ball, he could really make your team a lot better. He could be a huge addition to your lineup, and especially like I don't know, it feels a little out of place to talk about how good an outfielder is in Denver because they're getting so much action consistently, so they have that much more room to really figuratively and literally drop the ball. So I get him on a different team. That guy has the potential to have a Hall of Fame career. Keep him in Denver, and he's going to waste away, and that's really sad. And that is a huge waste of his talent.
Yeah,
Well said.
Brent Doyle, I think has that's the thing too, and that's part of the reason I picked him is things like speed and defense, like they don't really slump. Like he is going to be a fast elite center fielder this next season. We all like everyone knows that. It truly is just a thing of the bat, which is just something I love about him. That I think that 4-win season that he put up last year, I think is a kind of like I would say close to the floor for this next season. I think he has nowhere to go but up, truly. And again, you never know with the Rockies. I think Brent Doyle's the type of player they should keep and try and build something around maybe at some point. But the Rockies make no sense. We have no idea what they're going to do with him, what they're going to even try to build around him, whether they're going to try and make this somewhat of a core. Tovar, Doyle, and hopefully Michael Toglia works out. I think that's kind of what they're hoping for, but to be honest, like I don't know. I think the Rockies are gonna be fun. I'm gonna have fun watching Tovar and Doyle. It's just everyone else around them is probably gonna be very, very hard to watch.
So there you have it, folks. The first episode of the Club 303 podcast and the breakdown, our thoughts on the National League West. Got a lot of great content coming your way. More podcasts. Hopefully we can do one a week or so, but we're looking to get all the divisions out at least before the season this season starts coming up here in just a little over a month. So we're excited. This is just the beginning. A lot of great stuff coming your way. We'll see you next time.